Good morning. The cows and calves are calling up there on Mount Arbel. What a glorious sunrise this morning. Just wanted to catch a little bit here on the window. The YouTube picked this picture the other day. And I think I erased it by mistake from my YouTube, but it's on the Magdala YouTube as well. And it's on the Facebook. But I'm not sure which picture they chose on the Facebook, I don't forget. Those are automatic procedures. When the platform, there's an automatic process where it picks out the cover picture. In the Instagram, I can choose one. So people, we have this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sunrise. And here in the Holy Land, we're celebrating a feast today like you were yesterday in most other English-speaking countries where you celebrated the Epiphany. So those are the texts we contemplate. Some countries today it's also celebrated, like in Germany. And they have a very big tradition of the Sternsinger, those who sing. And they have the star is the key word there, Stern. And it's a major children's event. They're all excited about it. And they do so much good because people support them in their singing. They give them gifts, donations, and that goes to organized nationally. And their Germans are super organizers. And it provides major support for needs around the world, poor countries. And so that's part of that is bringing gifts to the child. And we have a star, and the sun is a star actually. Imagine the earth without the sun. But then a special star in the sky was recognized by these people of great culture as an important sign. And astronomers are still busy figuring that out, and I won't get into that subject today, but just the idea of following the stars. And actually, if you know the word desire, where does the word desire come from? De sidera, and that is from the stars in Latin. So the word desire is what's in our heart, what we desire. And then to see a major sign that's saying here there is salvation coming, there is a major reality happening, there is a huge opportunity. And we can jump forward there to the second reading, and there's a very interesting opening line. It says, "You have heard of the stewardship of God's grace that was given to me for your benefit." But every parent could say that for their children. The stewardship of God's grace that's given to them, because let's say parents who are baptized and following Jesus seriously, that gift is also for their children. Maybe the children don't understand it yet, they don't get it, but it's a great responsibility, a great opportunity, a great blessing. And so when we see a star, when we see a major evidence of truth in our lives, to follow that. We all have a challenge every so often in little details, like just smaller things, but also in huge things, like say the decision to marry somebody, the decision to follow a certain career track, finishing high school, going into college, the decision to follow a certain employment track, a new industry opening up, or making the decision to reprogram oneself for a different kind of work, a different specialization that's emerging. And I see this and I've got good counsel and I follow through. But then the biggest ones really are what the meaning of our soul is, the meaning of our life, why we live, to recognize the stars and to follow them. And I was fascinated. I actually just heard this morning, I had listened to my favorite German commentator, which is always very short, and that's very, very good to have a short soundbite that captures a nucleus of thought. The YouTube automatically went into playing Bishop Barron, because I often listen to Bishop Barron. It was yesterday's homily for the Epiphany, and I really recommend it to everybody. And he goes through major epiphanies in his life, and he starts off with an Irish author, James Joyce, a famous, everybody knows James Joyce, or a lot of people do, and the books he wrote, and the portrait of an artist, Ulysses, and so on. And he discovered his vocation, and then Bishop Barron goes and he explains how that happened, and then he goes on to explain how to present a whole series of significant epiphanies in his own personal life. And I think it was fascinating just to listen to him as I was tying my shoes and putting them on and just getting ready for you guys to come out here and fixing the link, so I would have the notes in this link updated for the Epiphany Day. And it was fascinating to see that to hear that story of Bishop Barron's life and the search for truth in his life, which was sown very early in the discovery of a major author, probably one of the greatest minds of the history of the West. So I won't say more, I'll just tickle you to listen to it, because we all have moments when we recognize the truth, but sometimes then to stir ourselves into action to do it, there might be a lethargy, there might be old habits, there might be some type of tie down, some type of addictions. Some people have addictions. Somebody asked me for help regarding an addiction recently, and I still haven't answered, because I'm trying to get advice and get good recommendation. It's not enough just to say a prayer for curing an addiction. Well, God can do a miracle for sure, but there's also a lot of resources to overcome addictions. In this case, it's alcohol, and how to overcome addictions that ruin lives. And maybe one day you have the urge to do it. You're ready to go, because for years and years and years you weren't ready to go, to follow the star. And here we have the wise men, the kings coming from the east, which is actually the reason why the church in Bethlehem was not destroyed in 614 when the Persians came and destroyed all the churches here in an act of revenge for 900 years earlier, or 8 centuries earlier, Alexander the Great, his destruction in Persia. They want to do revenge, to carry out revenge 800 years later. It makes us kind of raise our eyebrows and say, well, what the heck, And then we realize that maybe we're carrying old grudges from the past, and we get a brainwave that we need to deal with that. But the fact is that these kings are coming, let's say, from the east. And if we go now to the time 2,000 years ago here, there's a number of fascinating things happening. There's a very powerful incense trade between the area, present-day Gulf states, and the Yemen area. And they're heading to a place called Ashkelon and Ashdod and Gaza with their camels. And there's actually a whole string of ruins of cities crossing also the south of Israel, and they're I think it's every 37 kilometers, and that's the distance a camel can do regularly in a day. He can do 39 or something, so they cut it a little shorter, and they would carry up to a ton of incense that was worth as much as gold. And there we have two of the gifts, gold and incense, in the story. And camels walk with a very long step. And to go from that route, which is an hour and a half by car south of Jerusalem, it wouldn't be that impossible, especially if they were coming from the Gulf states on a regular trek from the Gulf states to Gaza, to Ashkelon, Ashdod, the ancient ports. And then that incense was going into the Roman Empire, and they, just like fish was going from Magdala to Rome, and so it was international trade. And when the Roman Empire was getting wealthy and rich, it was able to consume a lot of those kind of extra luxuries. And so the story is not preposterous. It's not, we see all the art, the famous artists have painted the camels, and maybe there are movies about it, and stories built around it, and it seems a little bit, fantasyful, just a work of imagination, but actually it's built on a reality of trade that was going on. The story is not absolutely out of reach at all. At that time, people could go from here to Rome. It was a week by ship from Caesarea Maritima to Rome if the weather was good. Look at all the travels Paul did. There's have been times when things have been just scoffed at, but beyond this reality, there's actually a bigger and more fantastic reality, and that is that these people were looking for the meaning of life. They were looking forward. They weren't caught up in their own little mistakes and past miseries. They were ready to leave the comfort zone they had to engage in the new. What a powerful thing. And there you see some elderly people. I know a priest, he's 86 years old, and he just published a 400-page book on spirituality. Another priest I know who's 84, and he published 7 books during COVID. And he just has another book appeared in Amazon. These are in Spanish. So it's just, we can stir ourselves, or we can just give up and not go after our heart's desire. And the hard work kids put into study, first of all into hobbies maybe, but then into study and constantly and seriously, and not just blow off life. Like one guy was telling a story recently I heard, and the coach said when he was playing basketball in college, hey, you guys need to understand that there are 3 things here in this college. There's sports, there's studies, and there's social life. But you can only do 2 of them well. And he said, of course, we knew, as kids, we knew what to choose, the sports and the social life. The studies fell into second place. But then there are kids in other colleges. I heard that recently when people were commenting about the Notre Dame game. I don't really spend much time watching sports. And they said that the Notre Dame students are really exemplary when they do well in sports, because there's no question about it, they're deeply dedicated to study. So they're following a different star. They're following a different star. That's very interesting. So the Feast of the Kings then is about doing that. It's about searching for truth and goodness, and knowing where the core and essence of life is, and doing the grind to get there. The preparation grind and the execution grind. And if you read the stories of any great inventions, the stories of great accomplishments, both elements are present. The preparation grind and the execution grind, and there's a lot of grace. There's the help from parents, the stimulation, the character formation and building. And we're in a time when a lot of people have wasted their lives on self-absorption, on addictions, because of the money that's available to buy all these things, these substances, tremendous amounts of drink or drugs, and they're not cheap. And we're living in a culture of that kind of excess. So now we need new generation of kings who go out on the new, and each one can do that. And you can be in your 80s or you can be a teenager. It doesn't matter. And the seeds are sown, if you're a young parent that's listening, the seeds are sowing in how you raise the sights of your children. A companion of mine from Cork, he served his whole priesthood life in Brazil. He used to like to repeat this phrase. He said, aim for the clouds and you hit the treetops. Aim for the treetops and you hit the ground. To set sights high, but also based on realism. To set sights of greatness, especially moral and spiritual greatness. And the sight that the church sets for us, teaches us, since we're little children, is to set our eyes on sanctity, on becoming a saint. And that's not just somebody that's like rolling their eyes around their head up towards the stars or something, or have a bunch of holy pictures. To be a saint is to do God's will and to bear with difficult people and to have serenity, to reach serenity through prayer in times of great stress and difficulty, and still to be kind and helpful to others. That's our big goal, to be Christ-like. And the ironic thing is that sometimes us Catholic, we Christians, Catholics, practicing faith people in a routine that's not alive, we are surprised when other people come with a conversion from a life they never heard about the faith, and they are so strong in the faith. So can you imagine, you have a King Herod of God's chosen people with 2,000 years of preparation, and he just wants to kill the children. And these foreign kings that didn't have the privilege of so much prayer life, of the Psalms, of the prophets, of the Torah, and they are racing ahead of this guy Herod to do the right thing. And we can see that also even in politics sometimes. That there are some people that have inherited a great democratic culture and tradition end up being so selfish and tyrannical and dictators. And then you have other people that have been there and discovered that's not the truth. The respect for every human being is so important. We need to follow a different star. We cannot be slaves to an ideology. And that can be dictatorship ideologies, or it can be consumeristic ideologies. People, there's a lot in this feast day for us today. And I would encourage you to go back to Bishop Barron's talk today and discover what are the epiphanies in your life where you saw the truth shine brightly, and maybe it went behind a cloud and you can't see it anymore, like they lost sight of the star, and how to handle those situations, and how to do the grind of preparation and the grind of execution, and then be open with open heart for the big blessing of grace that brings everything to full flowering beyond our wildest dreams. People, God bless you. See you later, alligators. It's not so cold this morning. I got ready in case it was. God bless you. Let's see what kind of a sun I get now on the Instagram.